5 kilometers off the coast of Japan, a single rectangle of light sits in the middle of Osaka Bay. It is an airport, a $20 billion airport. And since the day it opened in 1994, the ground beneath it has been sinking. Not because something went wrong, but because engineers always knew it would. The island has already dropped over 12 meters. It has not stopped. In the 1970s, the Kansai metropolitan region faced a severe infrastructure bottleneck. The existing airport at Itami was congested, hemmed in by dense urban development, and restricted by strict noise limits. Japan needed a major international gateway, but there was simply no mainland territory available near Osaka for expansion. The Ministry of Transport turned to the open water, planning an artificial island 5 kilometers out. Building offshore solved noise complaints and bypassed land acquisition disputes, but reclaiming land in deep water required over 180 million cubic meters of soil. This pushed the construction budget to 910 billion yen, placing it among the most expensive civil works of its era. When commercial operations began that September, the project represented a calculated choice. Planners did not build over the water because they believed the seabed was solid. They proceeded fully aware that the soft marine clay beneath the waves would compress under the weight of the new runway. From the initial design phase, settlement was not an unexpected failure, but a known physical reality that engineers accepted from the moment of commitment. The bay floor is dominated by a 20-meter thick layer of Holocene marine clay. This soft alluvial mud consists of up to 80% water, presenting an easily compressed structure with extremely low permeability. When loaded with millions of tons of rocky fill, the trapped pore water cannot easily escape, causing the soil underneath to deform over generations. Engineers knew they could not prevent this compression, so they focused on accelerating it. To control the timing and scale of the sinkage, construction teams drove hundreds of thousands of vertical sand drains into the seabed clay. These columns acted as escape pathways, allowing pressurized water to drain outward under the heavy weight. Before laying the runways, crews applied massive surcharges of soil, preloading the island to force rapid consolidation. This squeezed out the water within a year rather than decades. The goal was never to halt the descent, but to force the majority of the settlement to occur before operations began. This systematic dewatering transformed the unstable alluvial layer into a compacted foundation, managing soil physics to secure structural stability. The mathematical models developed by the Port and Airport Research Institute projected a total settlement of 5 to 6 meters over the first 30 years. Based on classic consolidation theory, these calculations assumed the compression of the Holocene clay would stabilize within a predictable window, leaving the runway safely above the high tide line. But as the reclaimed island was completed and the weight of the terminal was applied, the seabed behaved in ways the equations had not predicted. Instead of stabilizing, the downward movement continued. By the time the airport had been open for less than a decade, the ground had already dropped far past the 30-year estimate. Today, Island 1 has settled well over 12 meters since construction began, more than double the original design forecast. This massive divergence arose because the standard geological models underrepresented secondary compression, the slow plastic creeping of clay under constant pressure that persists long after the initial pore water has been squeezed out. This gap between calculation and reality forced a shift in how the project was managed. To track this continuous descent, engineers established a rigorous monitoring network, transforming the sinking island into a live geotechnical laboratory. Every millimeter of downward movement is recorded by laser levels and settlement plates, creating a permanent record of how a colossal human structure interacts with the shifting forces of the bay. The measured data did not just reveal a temporary miscalculation, it established a continuing engineering record that would redefine construction on soft marine soils. Architect Renzo Piano designed the 1.7-kilometer main terminal with an active structural system capable of constant movement. The building does not rest on a rigid foundation. Instead, its immense weight is carried by approximately 900 adjustable support columns. To limit overall settlement, designers even underfilled the basement with iron ore ballast, reducing the net vertical load on the clay below. Each support column is equipped with a specialized hydro-pneumatic jack assembly. These hydraulic units allow maintenance teams to raise or lower individual sections of the terminal with mechanical precision. Rather than a static monument, the building operates as a moving structure that must be actively balanced to remain functional. Automated tilt sensors continuously monitor the terminal, reporting any deviation greater than 2 millimeters. When the ground settles unevenly, maintenance crews step in to correct the alignment. Using the hydraulic jacks, workers lift the targeted columns and insert thick steel plates directly beneath the base to restore the building to its original design height. Once these steel shims are secured, the jacks are released, transferring the structure's weight back to its newly raised support. This careful process is repeated column by column across the entire footprint of the terminal. The viability of the massive building depends entirely on this ongoing manual correction, transforming basic maintenance into a continuous engineering operation. If the entire island sank at a perfectly uniform rate, the terminal would remain structurally intact, simply sitting closer to the sea. The true danger is differential settlement, the uneven downward movement of the ground beneath different sections of the building. When one zone drops faster than another, it introduces structural tilt, placing immense bending stress on the steel frame and glass facade. For structural engineers, the primary threat is not the overall loss of elevation, but these localized height variations. Without active correction, the shifting bay floor would slowly pull the building apart. On September 4, 2018, the engineered stability of the island faced its ultimate stress test. Typhoon Jebi, the strongest storm to strike western Japan in 25 years, swept into Osaka Bay. The system drove a 5-meter storm surge directly over the airport's protective seawalls, rapidly inundating the runway and flooding the terminal's lower basement levels. As power failed, conditions deteriorated offshore. Extreme winds ripped the 2,591-ton tanker Haun Maru from its anchored position. Drifting out of control, the heavy vessel slammed into the Skygate Bridge, the sole road link between the island and the mainland. The impact fractured the steel deck and severed utility lines, immediately stranding 3,000 passengers inside the dark terminal. Airport operations teams and emergency responders faced a double crisis of severe inundation and structural failure. While the facility had spent decades adapting to the slow compression of the seabed, this sudden environmental shock bypassed those long-term defenses, leaving the massive complex completely isolated in Osaka Bay. Following the 2018 disaster, the operator, Kansai Airports, initiated a series of defensive upgrades. Engineers raised the primary seawalls by 2 meters, reinforcing them with concrete armor to block future storm surges. To prevent another power failure, essential electrical systems and communications equipment were moved from the vulnerable basement levels to the 4th floor of the terminal. Crews raised the runways by up to 1 meter using staged nighttime asphalt paving. Today, the island's descent has slowed to a measured rate of 2 to 3 centimeters per year, but the sinking has not stopped. This continuous subsidence, coupled with projected sea level rise, narrows the airport's physical safety margin. Yet, Kansai remains fully operational. By managing this shifting baseline, the facility successfully serves over 31 million passengers annually, proving that reclaimed land can be sustained through relentless engineering vigilance. Kansai remains fully operational, a triumph of modern engineering. Yet as sea levels rise, its quiet daily struggle reveals our broader future. We do not conquer nature, we only negotiate the terms of our stay. What do you think of this engineering gamble? Share your thoughts below.